Hello, hello. Welcome to the Enquiry Podcast. This is a show that helps you to influence your reality to the greatest capacity in order to be able to use your life as the medicine that it is, to be able to know how to read the signposts and follow the breadcrumbs in order to express the fullness of who you are and what you're actually here for. I'm your host, Nerida Mills. I am a master psychosomatic practitioner, coach and facilitator, and it is my absolute pleasure to have you here. Welcome on board and let's get started. Hello and welcome back. It is my pleasure to be with you here once again on Enquiry. So last episode, we really dove into maturing the self, particularly maturing the element of the masculine and feminine. We dove a little bit deeper into the masculine energy and kind of what that looks like from an emotional standpoint or from a practical standpoint as well, like your behavior, your outcomes, things like that, that you're actually going to get when you're at different levels of maturation within that. And then how can we use that awareness to actually mature and change our outcomes? So today I want to look at the feminine energy just to give the balance point. I speak a lot about the masculine energy because it's been such a huge part of my healing journey. And really, it was the largest part that I had rejected in self. But I understand as well that there are definitely as equally as many people who do the same thing with the feminine energy. And so let's dive into that one. So feminine energy really is more so about your inner world. So the masculine is the outer world, the feminine is the inner world. The feminine plays out on your left-hand side of the body. Any ailments, injuries, issues that you have on the left-hand side of the body is another indication that your awareness is being brought to an element of your feminine energy or feminine expression. The feminine energy really is generally associated with that inner world. It's my emotional state. Think of waters, right? Anything to do with the waters and the flowing nature of the universe is more of the feminine. So creativity, sensuality, emotional sensitivity, intuition, things like that are really related to that feminine energy. Now, we are also relating to our feminine energy through the women in our life as well. So the points of interaction that our awareness is being drawn to in the women in our life are reflection points for our own feminine energy. So it's really interesting to be able to access clarity around what might actually be going on based on what you're noticing in other people as well. The feminine energy, when she is mature, like we can think of this, and I didn't quite go into this level with the masculine energy, but you can translate it. If you think of it like the different archetypes is a really great way of breaking down each of the levels of maturation. So you have a little girl is probably the youngest version or the youngest expression that you will get. Some people on a rare occasion, you do see like very, very young child expression coming through in their behavior, which is generally an indication that there's been some pretty significant trauma at a young age for that person, because the psyche kind of gets frozen a little bit. So we have the young girl, which, you know, if you think of like a 6-year-old child all the way up to sort of preteen, then you've got that sassy, I love teenage girls. You get the sassy preteen stage, and then you get the kind of angry teenager. And then we've got more like the party girl that comes out for a lot of people in their 20s. Freedom, baby, woo! And it's up until this point still very, very self-centered, which is perfectly on time for developmental stage. Then what we look at really start developing is more like the queen energy starts developing. And there's levels of maturation of that, but she starts to form, and that comes through the mother archetype, which again, we do have resourceful and unresourceful expressions of that by over-mothering or by taking on the responsibility of other people, which we've spoken at length on this podcast. And then we have that fully empowered queen energy. And it's really interesting. The queen energy is phenomenal because if you think about queens, I always go back to an experience I had where I kind of had a vision of myself through the ages as a queen. And it really, the common threads that I noticed with each of the queens that I experienced myself as was, you know, there's no neediness there. A queen is very, very secure in who she is. She doesn't try and convince anybody that she's a queen. She knows that she's the queen. The other thing is that she doesn't go
out begging for scraps. She understands that everything is provided for her and that she has everything she needs to be able to rule effectively. So if anything, people come to her both with challenges to resolve and also with gifts to honor her. Abundance is not something that she's scraping for. It's something that she attracts. The other thing about the Queen is that she's not in competition with the King. There is no competition there. They are in partnership. And so it really removes any form of competitiveness or any form of nitpicky. It just doesn't exist with the Queen. That is the way that it is. And in fact, if we look at the Queen energy in metaphors world over, the Queen is more powerful than the King. The Queen, even in chess, right? The Queen can take the King out. The Queen is a very interesting one. And looking at those different stages of developmental expression that we have within our feminine energy, we can look at, how am I relating to myself? And how am I relating that, or how am I expressing that feminine energy out of myself as well, right? So even though the feminine energy really is about the internal world, it's also expressed out. It's not like it's only contained within. We do express the feminine energy out as well. So what are the parts of yourself, or what level of maturity are you seeing with how you relate to and express your emotional state, how you relate to and express your sensuality, how you relate to and express your creativity? This is really going to start telling us what level of maturation your feminine energy is at. Is she willing to appreciate the masculine? That will also tell you what level of partnership is she at. Because if there's no appreciation for the masculine, she certainly hasn't stepped into the Queen. So we want to kind of just unpack, where is she at? And depending on the age that she's at, there are opportunities sometimes to take a leap up, but sometimes it's like, okay, well, let's just get you to the next step, right? So how do I get a child to a teenager? Well, a teenager does have a lot more certainty in themselves. They move with so much righteousness that it's challenging at times, right, to parent, for sure. A child is still quite uncertain. They're still looking for approval. Whereas a teenager is like, go get fucked. I'll do whatever I want, when I want, how I want, right? And there is this rebellious nature. So there's a bit of a pendulum swing around the expression there. And then as we're moving into that teenage years, it's sort of like, now I have a certainty of who I am. I know who I am, and I know that I can hold my boundaries. I'm probably going to be a little bit more resourceful and respectful around how I express those boundaries, because teenagers can often cross the line without knowing it. So I'm going to take into consideration that other people do have feelings and they do exist in my world. And now I'm starting to at least consider other people, but I just want to have some fun. Like, I want to play. And then taking it from there, the mother archetype is really about helping other people as well. So now we are becoming a little bit more externally driven, whilst ideally holding your own boundaries around what it is that you need in order to continue to fill your cup up. Where the mother archetype becomes unresourceful is when we betray what we need for others, then we become the martyr. Now, that's not the mother, it's the martyr, and it's not a resourceful expression. And I would suggest that it's actually quite closely linked with a much younger version of the feminine energy. And then from there, the Queen, right? So how do we actually step those through? And where am I actually? And how can I mature? Now, how does this relate to life as medicine? The beautiful thing about this is, as we mature the masculine and the feminine energy, what you're going to notice in your life is that your behavior is going to change and your outcomes are going to change. We can actually use the masculine feminine energy as a way to mature our own complete expression. And when we're maturing our complete expression, what that looks like on a tangible sense is I'm taking more responsibility for myself. I'm stepping more into my leadership roles. A king and a queen is in leadership. They are not stepping back. They're not holding back. They're not waiting for permission, right? So we step forward powerfully into our sovereign self and into what we're actually able to create in this world. We've got that creativity flow. We've got the intuition around it, and we've got the structures behind it to be able to support ourselves through it and to be able to build a team, ideally at some stage, to be able to bring it to life. It is a developmental pathway for leadership as well as for our own state of peace. Because when I'm in partnership with myself, when I can feel appreciation from myself, when I feel heard from myself, when I feel I have that backing of myself, like if I know that I've got my own back no matter what, right? And you get to that point when you're in partnership with self. when you're in partnership with self, I've got my back. I know that no matter what, my masculine's got me, my feminine's got me. We've got this together and we can go after it. Now I have certainty. No matter what's going on outside of myself, I'm able to stay quite grounded and centered in the face of the inevitable chaos that life is going to bring. And we can use this, and we can use the relationships outside of ourselves to reflect it back. We can use how I'm feeling about myself to really guide the pathway to develop and mature ourselves to be able to really expand what I'm willing to share and what I'm willing to give and the legacy that I'm willing to leave. This is one of the fundamental pathways to utilizing your life as medicine and really playing a much bigger game. It does excite me quite a lot. I'm not going to lie. I love it. I love it a lot. Cool. So that's me. For this week's episode, I'm going to encourage you to look at the feminine energy in the same way as we did last week with the masculine energy and just check in with yourself. What age is it currently at? And just trust your intuition around that. What age is it currently at? And what are the steps that I need to take to help to mature her and to help bring her back into partnership with my masculine? Thanks so much. And I will speak to you soon.
So that's it from us. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I would like to really acknowledge you for spending the time to explore what creates your reality and how you can influence it best. If you have absolutely loved this episode and the ones before it, then I highly encourage that you jump onto my newsletter list. You'll be able to find the details of that in the show notes. You can also follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Nerida Mills. Really looking forward to speaking with you again soon. If you have any comments, insights, feedback, anything that you would like to share from these episodes, please feel free to email me at info@neridamills.com. Until next time.